So we have a book balance and a bank statement cash balance as of December 31st. What do we do first? I would just copy paste this over. We know we need this information. Where do we start? Well, we need our bank statement balance and our book balance, right? Where is that given? The accounting records is 1,610. Our book balance is 1,900. That's our starting point. I delete everything else. Then we have to go through and be able to delineate which one ties. So December 31st cash balance, according to the accounting records, is, okay, we did part one. We had daily cash receipts of 800 were placed in the bank's nightly depository, but did not appear on the bank statement. So how should this be adjusted? Feel free to put in the chat. Or why is not the chat opening? How would this be adjusted? Do we adjust the bank statement for this or the accounting records for number B, for letter B?
It should be the bank statement, right?
Bank statement, correct. Why is that?
Because just based on the actual entry, it should already be in the books, but it doesn't appear on the bank statement even though you already did it.
Correct. Exactly. So we would already have this in our books because we have the daily cash receipts in our system, but it wouldn't be in our bank statement because we just put it in the bank last night. It's going to take a while to process. So that's a deposit in transit. Great job, Christina. And we're going to put 800 here, deposit in transit. Let's see. Next one, check. We wrote these two checks, $500 worth of checks in December. Let's see. Both written and entered in the accounting and records are among not. Then we have these two other ones are outstanding on the most recent. Check 621 is listed in the December canceled checks, but check 62242 is not. So we have to go through. These are checks we wrote, right? These are checks that we wrote that aren't cashed. So where does that get put? On the bank statement or the accounting records? Feel free to put in the chat or speak up.
The accounting record.
What?
Accounting record.
Not accounting. This should be correct in our accounting records. That's a good try though. It should be in our bank statement. Our bank statement, we wrote it, but no one's cashed it yet, so it hasn't hit our bank statement. So this will go change our outstanding checks. So here we have a 400 check, a 100 check. We both wrote these, and they're in our accounting records. So our accounting records are correct, right? But we didn't cancel the checks, and we had two other ones that are outstanding, 2,000 and 200. So we have a bunch of checks here, right? But we canceled check 6231, meaning, hey, we're saying they're not going to collect it. They're not going to cash it. So we can remove that. So total outstanding checks, I'll fix this up one a bit. Total outstanding. $700. Transit balance. And this would be here so far. So this is our running balance. $2,000. Does that make sense? Any questions here? Sorry, the chat's not showing, so I want to make sure. Are we able? Cool. 1 second. Okay, so next question. When December checks are compared with entries in the recording, it's found that check was correctly drawn for $340 to pay for office supplies, but was erroneously entered into the accounting records for $430. So what needs to be adjusted here? Let's just speak up. Accounting records or bank statement?
Accounting records.
Why?
because you have to add the error into the error of the cash into the accounting record.
Yeah, you're right. We made an error in our accounting records. Correct. And so they need to be adjusted. We entered in for 430, but we should have entered it into 340 as 340. And it's an expense, right? Let's see. It was found that we entered an expense that we wrote 6267. So we have to check for 6267 here, that $400 check. It's 430. So we expensed $90 more than we should. Someone just made an issue. So do we add that back to our bank or subtract it? Add it to our records or subtract it?
Subtract.
Why?
Because it's 430 is more than 340 and 340 is the correct amount.
You'd be right, but to challenge you here, we put 430 of expenses. So since we put more expenses, we're actually going to add this back to our balance because we expense too much. So we'd add that to our book balance. So that's where it seemed easy in practice, right? Like in theory, it seems easy, but we need to be really careful here on how it moves. But good call out. Like you're not wrong about how we go about calculating the amount. And just make sure the direction is correct. We sent a credit memorandum indicating the bank collected $500 of cash on a notes receivable for the company. We already did this one before, right? We received this statement, but we haven't reported it on our accounting statement. We know the answer here. We're just changing this for 30. That'd be 500. This would be 500 minus 30. On our books, we need to adjust. Make sure that this is all being added correctly. So we're off still, right? 2,270. So hopefully we get it down to equal. That's what the goal is here. Are enclosed. We have 2 debit memorandum enclosed. 1 debit memorandum is 150 and dealt with an NS check for 140 received from a customer. And then there's a $10 fee. So we have to add a $20 fee here. $20 check printing fee, and then we have a 150 fee here. We can see here, so we'll subtract these two. We get 2,000. That's how we tie it up. That's how we do our bank statement. Does that make sense? And so you can use this to make sure, like, hey, if I was off here, maybe let's say we did that error incorrectly. Say minus 90, it would be false. And then I'd have to say, I could go through my checks and say, well, I'm pretty confident I got the bank statement correct. This one's a little easier. So maybe I could flip these around to see where, oh, I probably got the error wrong, right? So you can go through and double check your work. There's always checks in accounting to make sure you know if you got the right answer or not. Any questions here? Cool. So this is exactly what we just walked through. So this is their explanation, but you also have the video of going through the sheets, and you can use the sheets for your homework or your test. Then we need to do the journal entries based on all of the book balances, right? I'm not going to go through that in the systems we've talked about. Hey, cash, we need to adjust for the office supplies. We need to do the collection of notes receivable like we did with the prior one. The accounts receivable, we'd have to add back because the check bounced. And then we'd have our miscellaneous expense that we need to adjust for the check printing. We did those previously, so I'm not going to do that again.